the time of the year that I'm going to make something that's sort of traditional but with a little bit of a twist. It's a cucumber, tomato, and onion salad. Now, if you're familiar with the green bean salad or sliced cucumbers in kind of a sweet sour mix, then this will bring in a little bit of a new twist to that. I'm starting with 1 large onion. Now this onion I put in sliced a little bit thick, 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch thick. You could do it in wedges as well. You could just chop it. And I've let it soak in salt water, a teaspoon of kosher salt to a couple of cups of water for about 20 minutes. Now the objective to that is to take away some of the really strong flavors that the onion might have. If you've got a really sweet onion that you could just bite like an apple, then I'd skip this step because we're really not trying to soften it at all. We're just trying to take out some of the snap that might be there otherwise. So a yellow onion, a white onion, I definitely do that kind of a step with that. We're going to put those in a large bowl that we have plenty of room in because we're going to add some other things to it, and we're going to be doing some stirring, and for that I always need a large bowl, otherwise things are coming out. All right, also to that, I'm going to add the cucumber. Now the types of cucumber, there are about 3 kinds of cucumbers that you're going to come across in the market, either the supermarket, maybe in your garden as well, or at the farmer's market. This one is the one that I'm going to use today. You could use any of the 3. This is a pickling cucumber. This one is a slicing cucumber. It's a little bit larger. You'll notice that on the pickling cucumber there are more little nodules, or some people would call them warts or pricks. When you're actually picking the cucumber, those will be a little bit sharp. So there are going to be more of those on the pickling cucumber than on the slicing cucumber. There will still be some here, just not as many. And if you wash this cucumber or handle it very much, those are going to come off. So by the time you get to the cucumber, that may not be your best clue. Another thing that's going to be different is the coloring. Notice that on the slicing cucumber, it's green all the way up and down, pretty much uniform. But on the pickling cucumbers, there's a lot of variation. And that's another clue that you've got a pickling cucumber. Now, if you are actually pickling, it makes a big difference in the kind of quality that you're going to get. If you're making this salad, it really doesn't matter. You can use any of them, including this one, which is sometimes called an English cucumber, or a seedless cucumber, or sometimes a burpless cucumber. I don't really think that any of them are actually burpless, and they're not actually seedless either, but the seeds are smaller. And people who respond to eating cucumbers by burping tend to do so less when they eat this kind of a cucumber. So that one may be your choice as well. This kind of cucumber, the English cucumber, has a very thin skin. And so if you go to the supermarket to buy one, to protect it and to keep some of the freshness inside of it, it's usually going to be wrapped in plastic. A slicing cucumber at the grocery store is usually going to be waxed. The wax is perfectly safe to eat. It keeps the moisture inside it, keeps it from deteriorating as quickly, but you can't use it for pickling because it's just not going to absorb through that wax. So we've got 4 of those, that size cucumber. It's a little over 2, somewhere between 2 to 3 cups of cucumber. For the pickling cucumbers, it was 4 of them. I've sliced them. Notice they're again a little bit thicker. We want to get a good strong bite full when we go there. Break them apart because we're going to put a marinade on them, and we want to make sure that it gets to all of them, and they do tend to stick together a little bit otherwise. Now the next ingredient is tomato. Now I've got 3 beautiful garden tomatoes here that you could either cut in wedges. I cut them in kind of wedges and cut the wedges in half. They don't need to be seeded. It's going to be in a marinade. If things fall into the marinade, that's perfectly fine. The only caution on this is to when you add them, and that's if they're extremely ripe, add them at the very last minute because you don't want them to get too mushy. Now the next thing we've got going on is we're going to sprinkle a little bit. I've got about a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper and a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. And we're going to sprinkle those over and just stir them a little bit. We're not going to leave them sit very long. We're not really trying to draw out juices. We're just doing what I said. We're just seasoning them. So don't make a lot of effort at that point. Now we need to make our actual marinade. And for that I've got 3/4 of a cup of cider vinegar. Cider vinegar is great for this. It's probably the traditional flavor of vinegar for it. But if you choose another vinegar, that's fine. Consider those that are dark red may have some impact on the color, so a red wine vinegar, a balsamic vinegar may be too sweet, but they are going to impact the color of the onions and the color of the cucumbers. But a distilled vinegar, if that's what you have, a champagne vinegar, again, whatever you've got. To that I'm going to add another 1/2 teaspoon of salt, another 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and this is going to give us that sweet sour effect. that a lot of us just really enjoy. So whisk those together. Basically, you're just trying to get the sugar dissolved at this point. And then to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of canola oil. You could use extra virgin olive oil, canola oil, again, whichever oil you have present. One of the advantages of using either the canola or the extra virgin olive oil is that it's higher in monounsaturated fats. So from that standpoint, it gives you a little bit better nutrition profile and a little bit healthier dish in the end. Remember, we're just dissolving the sugar, pouring this over the top. Now we want those flavors to blend, and that's going to take some time. So if you were at home and doing this, you'd stir this together, break all the onion into rings, and make sure that everything is somewhat submerged. Come back and stir it once in a while, but you want that to go into the refrigerator covered so that everything else in your refrigerator doesn't start to taste like this same salad, particularly those mild things that you might have in there like peaches or other fresh fruit that may have become ripe and need to be stored in your refrigerator. It needs to sit in the refrigerator about 30 minutes. It can sit longer. If you know it's going to sit longer, I would make it up this far, say in the morning, and then when you got home from work, I'd add the tomatoes at that point to it, and then maybe let it sit about 30 minutes beyond that. When you're ready to serve, get about a tablespoon of fresh parsley that you've chopped quite finely, and stir that in there as well. And that's all there is to it. It's really flavorful. It's nice and sweet. It's got that sweet sour thing going for it that maybe I think everyone else likes it so well simply because I do. And when you're ready to serve, remember this would have sat for a while and you would have broken the onions apart a little bit better. I'm just going to scoop up big scoops of it, either into a bowl if you actually want to have some of that marinade, or onto a plate. And you've got a great salad in a fairly short length of time. A little bit of stand time in between, but the time that it takes you to do it is not all that much. I hope you'll give this one a try. This is cucumber, tomato, and onion salad. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.